Everybody, and welcome to this cabinet meeting of Telford Wrekin. The first item on the agenda, as always, is apologies for absence, but I think we are all here, Jane. Thank you very much. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? No. Item 3 then is the previous minutes of the previous meeting, pages 5 to 10. Do we have any comments on the minutes? Are we happy to accept them? That's lovely, thank you very much. Item 4 then is leaders' announcements. Just two brief things from myself. First of all, we will be making the decision to expand and extend our fixed penalty notices as a result of legislative change, which means we can fine people who dump rubbish more. And we make no apology about charging the maximum that's allowed. I think there's an absolute point about why there is a cap, why we can't charge what we want as a local authority. Often the cost of investigation and the cost of prosecution is far more than what we're able to then charge people, but it is a step in the right direction, and we'll be making that decision by way of a strong leader decision over the next few days. And I'll make sure I report back to the next cabinet meeting. It just hasn't been possible due to the timing. And then secondly, as we've all seen, the hospital reconfiguration process has taken yet another step forward over the last week or so. And I've been doing this privately with the government, but I'll do it publicly today, that we wrote to the government on a legal challenge in respect of the hospital reconfiguration, and we back in March of this year, and they've not had the courtesy up until this point to even respond to our legal concerns, and it's simply not good enough. And we need members of Parliament to be raising this in the House of Parliament if we're going to be ignored as a council on something so significant than our A&E being closed, our Women's and Children's Centre being transferred to Shrewsbury. Because what we won't do as a council, I think this is cross-party, I hope it's cross-party, I'm sure it is cross-party, but we're not going to be silenced on this issue. This is an issue that is of great concern to our community, and the government simply not responding to our letters or our legal challenges is simply not good enough. And I do want both members of Parliament to be raising this in the Houses of Parliament, because it's simply not fair. 22,000 people have signed our petition against the closure. Many more have expressed through various means their opposition, and I say to the Hospital Trust again, please work with us on this. We know that you've got £312 million from the government to take these changes forward. We know it's going to cost in the region of £500 million, if not more, for these reconfiguration services to take place, and Telford gets the worst of all worlds. So I do hope today, having mentioned this publicly, that we'll get a response from the Department for Health, we'll get a response from the government's legal unit, and we'll also get a response and some action from members of Parliament who up until this point have sat back and done nothing to help our cause. We'll move to item 5, which is the Financial Monitoring Report 2022-2024, pages 11 to 34. Councillor Nathan England.
Good morning. This is the first financial monitoring report of the year. The report provides the latest monitoring position for the revenue budget, the capital programme and the council's main income streams. The report also recommends that the council's loan to the Ironbridge Gorge Museum Trust is extended by 2 years. Members will be aware that since the budget was prepared, inflation and interest rates have increased significantly. We have also seen significant increases in demand for key services, partly driven by the cost of living pressures faced by our residents, and we therefore need to make additional investment into children's safeguarding and adult social care. The key pressures include children's safeguarding, where additional investment of £3.8 million is needed to meet demand. Adult social care, additional investment of £2.8 million is required. The estimated additional cost of the 2023-24 pay award is £2.7 million, which is largely driven by the significant increase in national living wage due to high inflation rates. The Council has a long track record of actively managing its budget, having remained just within budget every year since 2011, despite having to make budget savings of £140 million per year. Because of these pressures that we and most other councils are facing this year, which are driven by national issues, all services have been asked to take an early action to identify savings that can be used to offset the pressures. The result of this action is that we are now projecting that despite the need to make the additional investment into frontline social care services, we expect to the end this year within budget and still have £1.3 million of the revenue budget contingency in hand at the end of the year. This has not happened by accident, but by Cabinet members being proactive and working with the senior management team to address the unavoidable pressures, and demonstrates the administration's commitment to retaining our track record of sound financial management. The capital programme totals £145 million, and we expect to have spent around 93% of this by the end of the year. The income collection rates are slightly behind target, perhaps reflecting the cost of living pressures faced by our residents and businesses. In section 5.4 of the report refers to the loan made by the council to the Ironbridge Gorge Museum Trust, which had an outstanding balance of £171,000 at the end of March. Unfortunately, the impact of the pandemic and then the cost of living crisis has impacted on visitor numbers at the museums, and the Museum Trust has therefore asked if the council would reschedule the loan repayments over a long period. We have therefore agreed a 2-year extension.
Thank you, Nathan. Is that seconded? Thank you. Any comments or questions from members of the Cabinet? Councillor Healy?
Just to say, I'll obviously thank both Councillor England and the officers for all the work on the report. These are really challenging times, aren't they? But we are managing our budgets, and as with my ward member hat on, really overseeing for Ironbridge Gorge and the Ironbridge Gorge Museum Trust, really important partner for the council, really important part of our visitor economy. COVID has really affected them, so I'm really pleased that we're able to help just extend that loan payment a little bit more, just to make sure that they can continue to function, build up the business back again to where it was pre-COVID. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Yeah, it's a report that we didn't really want to bring to the cabinet really, because it's a lot of pressures being put on this council by the cost of living crisis that all residents are facing through energy costs and product costs that they're facing. We're facing that too. You think the government would try and help local authorities because they do deliver to the most vulnerable people, and as you can see, we had the promise in the last general election about sorting adult social care out by Mr Johnson, and nothing's been sorted, and actually it's falling on the costs of local authorities to pick that up and our local residents. And it's time now that the government really got a grip on adult social care, because the population's getting older, there's a lot more people needing that support, and the government have got no answer to that. They just keep kicking it into the long grass, and sadly we as a local authority have to pick that up, but we're doing it because we do care about our residents. We won an election basically on protecting our residents, and we're going to continue to do that. But it's great that we have a team here and the cabinet members here to deliver and make those savings so we can still invest into those services, as well as invest in our commercial operations to get income to support adult care, social care and children's social care as well.
Thank you very much. Group leaders, Councillor Tomlinson.
Yeah, I welcome Councillor England into his new role, and particularly bringing this report forward. Like his predecessors before him, at this time of the year, he has sadly have to announce that we're over budget. Going to keep within the budget, but over budget on adult and children's social services. And like I said to all the other ones who came along, it's not their fault. There are awful pressures being applied, and the government simply aren't adequately funding, which the most vulnerable in our society. So they leave it to local authorities to pick up the tab. I have got no complaints about the additional spending that you're having to put in, where demand rises. I mean, we use the word investment, and I know I've said this before, but I'll say it again. It isn't. It's where it's not as if we're trying to add extra in because we want to add extra in. We're adding extra in because there are people out there that require these services, and we simply can't turn them away. So I welcome the report. I also welcome the fact we should hopefully be within budget by the end of the year. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
Yeah, very quickly if I can. But, historically, this council, I have to say, has been blessed with some very good finance officers that have come up with the goods year on year. And this time, of course, is no exception. Now, if it comes to social care, I think my views on that are pretty well known. We've raised this here and elsewhere on a number of occasions. But it is a failure of successive governments to actually sort out the social care issue. And looking forward, wherever we go with the general election, I hope that it is possible to do that. Because putting this burden on local authorities, it's taking up such a huge amount of the budget that it does start to affect other areas.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? It's been moved, it's been seconded. All those in favour? That's everybody. Thank you very much. Moving to item 6 then, which is our health and wellbeing strategy, pages 35 to 78. Councillor Kelly Norton.
Thank you. I'd like to start by saying thank you to Liz, Helen and the Public Health team for your continued hard work. At the start of our administration, I'm very pleased to present this health and wellbeing strategy to Cabinet. The refresh strategy builds upon the work we as a council are already doing together with our partners to improve health and wellbeing. We want all of our residents to start well, live well and age well in our borough, and this strategy recommends a set of priorities to Cabinet to support this ambition. The strategy has a strong focus on tackling the wider determinants of health, such as continuing to support residents in this cost of living crisis, reducing homelessness and creating a greener borough to support all our physical and mental well-being. It has a strong preventative and community-centred approach to the way we'll deliver improvements in health and well-being, whether that is about tackling the causes of poor health such as unhealthy weight or delivering support to residents with health and care needs. At its heart of the strategy aims to reduce inequalities that are unfair and unjust, and a key pledge we have made as a Cabinet. I recommend that we agree this strategy and receive regular reports against its progress over the 5 years.
Thank you, Kelly. Is that seconded? Thank you. Are there any comments or questions from Cabinet members on this report? No? Any comments or questions from the group leaders? Oh, forgive me, Eileen, I missed you. Forgive me.
It's fine.
Thank you.
It was only really just a quick comment, really. I think these strategies are some of the most important within the borough, so I couldn't leave it without a comment made on it. Just want to say I know what a huge piece of work this is, and I know there's always more to do. I mean, on a personal level, I know there's things that I need to improve on, and I think when we look at some of the statistics across the borough and some of the impacts that we know that we can have by putting good health and wellbeing strategies in place, we've got to sort of grasp the importance of everything that we do feeding into this. So I just wanted to thank Councillor Middleton for her work on this. I know she really champions this area of the council and the officers, and you know, I think we all need to be champions for the borough ourselves in bringing these forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Eileen. Forgive me for not spotting you. Bill.
Yeah, I welcome the report, and I think we're blessed in this authority with lovely open green spaces that we've been trying to preserve with the nature reserves and everything else, and that really does help go towards the volunteering that I see around the borough that we encourage. Also improves mental health for those who they help, and also for the participants themselves, and I really welcome that, and all that we can do to encourage that. And so long as we can signpost people and help them to find these various things, initiatives I'm seeing which we're joining in with on medical practices, where we help them signpost people to various activities and these things that are going on. And it's been part of that joined up, isn't it, where we help the medical practices and we help everybody else, that I really welcome. So thank you for all the hard work you've been putting it together.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, so I think one of the things about this report which I think is really useful is that it articulates very clearly what we're doing, what our community can do, but also I think our health partners need to absolutely read this report and understand what we're doing, because actually all of this agenda is effectively their preventative agenda, and we all know that if you are able to prevent an issue before it becomes an issue, it's better for residents, but it's also better for money and finances and resources and capacity. I think some of the things that we do in this space is particularly nationally leading. I think about our leisure offer, for instance, our green guarantee offer, our volunteering offer, amongst others, and it would be really, really helpful as we are meant to be, as we integrate, or we are meant to be integrating local government and social care with health, that they see this as their business as well. And it'd be really, really good. I know that this has been discussed at Health and Wellbeing Board. It'd be really useful to see what type of, not just welcoming and warm words our health partners are able to offer, but also what money they're able to offer against this agenda. I know that Kelly and others have been, and Liz and Helen and others have been making that case. So it'd be really good to see that true integration around, as Kelly says, around that stronger, healthy communities and people, which is something we're all absolutely passionate about. So thank you very much. It's been moved and it's been seconded. All those in favour? That's everybody. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, we're now moving to item 7, which is Better Homes for All, pages 79 to 96. Councillor Richard Overton.
Thank you, Leader. As you all know, Better Homes for All was introduced in 2018 in response to a rapidly growing private rented sector, something this administration was keen to make sure certain standards were adhered to. This set a new focus for supporting good landlords, but also a robust enforcement regime for rogue landlords. This is alongside our New Place private rented housing offer and Telford Wrekin homes, 2 initiatives which have intervened in the private rented market and have shown residents what a good landlord looks like, as well as giving those tenants the security of tenure that they value and appreciate. In 2022 to 2023, the team, although a small team, dealt with lots of issues. They had 489 service requests, 123 damp and mould issues, 300 inspections, 18 HMO licences, 140 enforcement notices, 12 civil penalties, 3 prosecutions, 132 long-term empty properties have been brought back into use, and they've been took part in 10 mates exercises. The team have also secured £4 million of additional grant for our affordable warm strategy. We have continued to work in Sutton Hill and Brookside with the Safer Streets project, and have also moved into College Ward and Ollins Wood. Well, it's Halston College Ward now, and Ollins Wood. This involves a multi-agency approach. Through the team, we've also introduced a landlord-tenant coordinator role, Better Homes for All loan. We've improved the website, supported the Homes for Ukraine initiative, increased scrutiny of supported accommodation providers, and during HMO licensing week, conducted a number of unannounced visits. The team will continue to focus on supporting landlords as regulation around the sector increases. I'm very proud of the work the team has done, and therefore move the recommendations in the report.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Thank you. Paul Wallet.
Yeah, just welcome the report, Leader, and want to say well done to Ravi and the team. They do a brilliant job in terms of the work. I know from my own experience of working with the team on Sutton Hill, we get more complaints as ward members about landlords than we do about tenants, and for me that's been one of the really important things for us to look at, is how we raise that standard of landlord support for their tenants. And you've done a great job, and the team have done a great job at doing that with the Safer Streets project and with other projects as well. I'm really pleased to get the report. I think it's really positive, and the work we're doing to raise the standard of private landlords is really important.
Thank you. Callum?
Yeah, really fantastic work being done by the team on this agenda, and it's so important, isn't it? For this links back to the health and wellbeing report before, doesn't it? I mean, everything we do as an organisation is about improving people's health and well-being. That's ultimately what we're here to do, and having, you know, a dry, warm home, safe home is absolutely underpinning, isn't it, to people's health and well-being. We know the tragic story of 2-year-old Awa Bishak in Rochdale, and you know, and I don't say this lightly at all. I think the work that that we're doing now on this agenda, that the team are doing, is saving lives. You know, it is saving lives, because we're making sure that people are living in safe accommodation. So absolutely fantastic, really good. Some respects we shouldn't have to do it, but we do. And you know, and I think I'm really glad that we've gone forward, and we've gone forward really firmly, you know, and at a fast pace on this really important piece of work. Well done.
Thank you. Lee?
Yeah, really welcome this. An excellent report, and shows some excellent work, which is only going to become more vital to us, really, particularly as the costs of mortgages, for instance, are increased, and landlords who perhaps own premises and rent them out are going to find it more difficult to invest in those premises and keep them up to standard. So it's absolutely essential going forward. I think the way it demonstrates working with other departments in the council and areas of council's work also is really good. Councillor Overton mentioned the Safer Stronger work that goes on, not just from a point of view of housing in some of those areas, but activities for young people in some of those areas, investment into community action teams that the council makes to improve the areas outside of the actual physical household themselves, and also our work around enforcing fly tipping, etc., to improve those neighbourhoods as well. So all of that combined means that we're making sure our neighbourhoods are the best place they can possibly be to live. Our neighbourhoods are the best they can possibly be to live in for all of our residents, no matter where they're based in Telford Wrekin. Really, really welcome this work.
Thank you.
Yeah, I welcome the report. It's also heartening in the report that it does say the majority of private landlords are decent landlords, and that's great. And I think we need to make sure that that is publicised, that we have got a lot of decent landlords out there. But what we do can help make sure it remains decent. And we're always there for folks if things do go wrong, so welcome you. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Bill was absolutely right to stress that we do have, and we're blessed in Telford Wrekin with some very good landlords and very good landlords organisations, and it's up to us to make sure that we encourage that and that process to carry on. However, in instances where properties are allowed to deteriorate, where living conditions become appalling, and I've seen some of those, that clearly isn't acceptable. Now there will be greater pressures on landlords because of the mortgage situation, and also the amount of people now seeking, which is the balance from homeowners to the rented accommodation, is switching somewhat. So we do have to do what we can to make sure that living standards are maintained, that properties are maintained across the borough. Now that is not an easy thing to do. I also compliment the team on what they've done with this. I think they've done a good job around it. It's a difficult job as well to try to force this sort of issue through, but it's something that we have to do, and we have to make sure continues in the right direction.
Absolutely. So I think there's really good consensus around this. I think one of the things that we are well placed in is that we've got a large registered social landlord in Wrekin Housing Group that we have a very strong relationship with. We've got other registered social housing landlords that we have equally good and strong relationships with. Telford Wrekin Council, through New Place and through Telford Wrekin Homes, is now the largest single private sector landlord in Telford and Wrekin, and that acts as a market disruptor in terms of, as Richard says, is what is raising the bar in what is acceptable. That was one of the founding missions of New Place and Telford Wrekin Homes, and it was objected to and campaigned against and scaremongered against by opposition parties here. But actually, you speak to the well over 1,000 people who now live in a New Place property, and about what their views are about New Place, it's pretty phenomenal. Telford Wrekin Homes, the natural extension to that, so intervening in the market and buying those houses on the whole back and bringing them back to the council and renting those out. You speak to people who live in Telford Wrekin Homes properties about what they think of their landlord through New Place, and the council is pretty strong. Also working with good landlords and good letting agents and good landlord associations, absolutely, offering tenant matching services, guaranteed deposit schemes, and incentivising landlords' behaviour, but absolutely not being apologetic that where we do find bad landlords and bad living conditions, we will be as robust and we will enforce. And I was really proud that it was this council that secured the first ever landlord banning order in the country, and that is testament to the fact that we will not shy away from using the powers that the government give us. But I do think we do need more powers. We need an end to no fault evictions. It's an outrage, I think, in 2023 that tenants who live in houses can be evicted through absolutely no fault of their own. I'm looking forward to seeing the government bringing forward their plans on that. And also something that I've long campaigned on, which is the linkage of housing benefit to decent homes agendas. I have no idea why it's acceptable that the government spends billions of pounds each and every year on housing benefit, but then don't match it to the decent homes agenda. And I would like to see far more incentivisation of saying to people that if you have got a tenant who's going to be being paid some or all of their rent through housing benefit, you've got to match up to a certain type of standard of accommodation. There's far more we can do, but as Caroline quite rightly says, the foundations of people's lives start with their home, if you don't have a decent home to live in, a warm home, a safe home, then actually as a child going to school, that affects you. As an individual trying to get a job, it affects you. As a citizen and as a resident engaged in their community, it affects you. So we put this at the heart of all we do. So thank you, and thank you, Ravi, to you and your team as well. As I said, I think we made significant progress over the last few years on this agenda, and I know there's far more to do as well. So it's been proposed and it's been seconded. All those in favour? Everybody, thank you very much. Thank you. We then move to item 8, which is the Climate Change Guidance for Development Supplementary Planning Document, pages 97 to 106. Richard Overton.
Thank you, Sean, again. As you know, we declared a climate emergency and are working towards a carbon neutral borough by 2030. This is a joint report with Councillor Healy, the Cabinet Member for Climate Action. The Climate Change Action Plan recognises the role that planning needs to play in reducing carbon emissions by creating climate-ready development. We are taking a proactive, locally driven approach to addressing climate change in new developments, and the supplementary planning document will be central to this approach. We all know that national government has a role to play in providing a consistent approach to climate change through the National Planning Policy Framework and building regulations, the cost of which will be reflected in the purchase price of a site in advance of a planning application. The Climate Change SPD builds on policies in the Telford Wrekin local plan and provides additional planning guidance for residents, developers and businesses on matters such as climate-ready site design, infrastructure, greening, building design and renewable energy. The SPD will help deliver many cross-cutting benefits, including reduced energy bills through better thermal efficient of all types of housing, including affordable homes, improved mental and physical well-being of residents through more opportunities to walk and cycle, access to locally grown food with allotments and community gardens helping to reduce food miles, a well-protected and improved natural environment through enhanced biodiversity, green infrastructure and open space for residents, and creating a greener economy through use of recycled materials, renewable energy and in the right place and more adaptable commercial buildings. The SPD will help residents and businesses in the borough to be more resilient to the impacts of climate change by bringing forward climate-ready development. This SPD allows us to be one of the front runners in a way that will not put off development but allow developers to deliver more sustainable and energy efficient homes. I therefore move the recommendations in the report.
Thank you. Karen?
Yeah, I mean, this is, I'm really pleased we brought this forward. It's another part of our journey to net zero, a really important part of that. And we've obviously just had a report talking about how important good quality housing is. And it's not just about warm homes. We want homes to be warm in the winter, but increasingly we're seeing very, very hot summers. And so we also need homes that will stay cool. So it's about well insulated, really good fabric first approach, building properties that can manage those extremes of temperature. Also looking at the surrounding environment, we've had a lot of wet weather this month, haven't we? And we've got more coming tomorrow, and those sudden downpours of rain that we're seeing much more frequently as our weather patterns change as a result of climate change. That water can cause flash flooding, so built into this is obviously things around sustainable urban drainage schemes, making sure that we can manage that, so we're future-proofing development. Of course, this is a supplementary planning document. It's not national building regulations, and that's the challenge for us. I think it's a really, really good document. I really like the way that it's been structured in setting out the must things you have to do under current regulations, things that really should do, and then the coulds, the aspirational things. Obviously, what we need to be is those things that are in the coulds column should actually be part of building regulations now. We're told that the Future Home Standard will come in 2025. It should be here now. If the government was serious about climate change and getting net zero by 2050, it should be here now. I think as members, we often hear, don't we, people don't understand why new builds are going up without solar panels as standard, without EV charging points as standard. And the reason is because we can't mandate that under current planning regulations. But what this document does is it sets that direction of travel. It gives that clarity to developers that this is really what we want you to be doing. And I'm hopeful that alongside that, with I think members of the public who are the future buyers of these of properties being developed, who also want to have energy efficient homes that have got inbuilt renewables to keep their costs down, that will also shift the market. But we really need that government intervention. And I'm really pleased as well that as a council we're also leading on this by example with our new place development, and that we are building those types of homes now. So, you know, for me, this is you know, a fantastic step forward on our journey to net zero. It will mean less pollution. It will mean, you know, it's not just about housing, it's about agriculture and commercial, so cleaner agricultural, industrial processes, better insulated homes and businesses, and much, you know, more in the way of energy from renewable sources. So it's a really important document. Well done to the team. They've brought a lot of information together into a very succinct and clear policy document. Thank you.
Thank you. Kelly?
Great work, and you know, in terms of health, it states in the report, you know, it's about reducing those fuel costs, which then, you know, the risk with that is people won't have the heating on, you're getting damp in houses, so people's health and well-being will be affected by that, better air quality. So there's so many health benefits to that, which I think is obviously really important. So I really support this and just wanted to say well done.
Thank you. Irene?
Leader. Yeah, I was involved in this document as well, so I know the team did a huge amount of work. The only one thing that I would have liked to have seen more was more input from the developer. We went out to a lot of developers to carry out this piece of work, and I think the amount that we actually got to feed into it was quite low, which I would like to try and encourage more developers to be involved in these kind of policies that we're putting in place. I think it's really important that they're there and part of it. It's a really unique place within the borough, because everything that you do down there is based around a World Heritage Site, so it's a difficult thing to do. But I think that this planning document does set that out really, really well, and it covers so many different areas, you know, the green economy, helping the local circular economy. That there's lots and lots of sort of sections within this document. So I just want to say thank you for all your work, and I know it's been a big piece of work, but I do really welcome it.
Thank you, Irene. Any comments or questions, group leaders?
Yeah, welcome it, as I did the one we had on biodiversity and green, urban greening, but it's always that little clause in there, isn't it, where because of national planning guidelines, if viability is an issue for the developer, they can always, I won't say duck the issue, but they can sometimes whittle the way. It's not our fault, and as Councillor Edie said, until national planning guidelines are changed to encompass this, it's that bit weaker, but I fully welcome the initiative of what you're doing.
Thank you, Bill. Andrew?
That's an interesting one, isn't it? We all see the advantages of putting solar panels, ground pumps, everything else, and making sure that houses are properly insulated for very many reasons that have been stated. The problem with this, of course, is cost, and particularly at the present time with the housing market. Now, I'm not saying that's a justification, but it would be that people, of course, would have to pay more for this. Now, while I can welcome guidance for developers, we know what developers will do, and the reaction is already where planning permissions are being given, the developers coming back and saying that sites aren't viable, and therefore we're accommodating that. This is well, to say that they're not going to be welcome it or come on board with it is probably an understatement. You know, it's not a reason to put it forward and try and get some sort of direction of travel on this. But if we're serious about doing this, I just wonder what sort of lobbying that we're actually doing as a local authority with central government to try and bring this agenda forward to see if we could get local powers for local authorities to actually insist on better standards. And I think from memory, there was a development in Wales where they did this, and I just wonder whether it would be useful to go and have a look firsthand what's been produced, how the cost of the houses were affected, and what the take-up was, and indeed what the running costs of those houses are compared to everything else. So there's no easy solution to this. And what to say, while we can welcome guidance as a step forward, I honestly really don't believe that developers are going to take all of this on board.
Yeah, I'll bring Carolyn back in a second. I just want to pick a couple of things that have been said. I think one of the things that we are frustrated by as a council, but also local government more generally on a cross-party basis, is that developers are able to sort of use that sustainability and viability argument. And actually I welcome the government's plans to change the dynamics around that, which is basically to say to a developer and the landowner that you have to stack up a sustainable and viable development at that part, you don't come to the local authority to try and take money away from local communities. And I'm genuinely looking forward to seeing that coming through. I know it's in the pipeline, and it'd be quite good if the government could get on with that. That will empower communities across the country. I also think it would be really good to look at Labour-led Wales, who are doing a huge amount on this. It's interesting, Andrew, you use a Welsh example in your area of good practice there, because actually the Labour-led Welsh government have done huge amounts in this respect. So, for example, interest-free loans for homeowners and landlords to be able to retrospectively fit solar panels and heat pumps. And actually, the conversation that I have with lots of people is that they genuinely want to do the right thing, but they can't get objective and non-biased advice, and they can't get access to low or interest-free finance. And of course, because of what's happening in the economy, it's becoming more and more expensive. And then just finally, before I bring Eileen in, I know she wants to speak about the landlords, the local authority. Excuse me, Carolyn. What did I say?
You said that.
Eileen, forgive me, Carolyn. Forgive me. Carolyn, on the local authority lobbying, has been very active in that respect. Is that we do need to see government taking real action on this. I was really concerned that Lord Jack Goldsmith had resigned from the government just over a fortnight ago, who said that he believed that the current Prime Minister is uninterested in environmental issues. And we all know, because climate change is here now, that you can't be uninterested in climate change issues because it has a direct impact on almost every single area of our life. Carolyn.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, you're right to raise it, Andrew, that in terms of the upfront costs. But what I would say to that is that the retrofit costs, which we're going to have to do at some point, if we're going to get to net zero, the retrofit costs are far greater, and that's why we need government to be serious about this and bringing forward that future home standard and making sure it's built in at the start. Yes, we do lots of lobbying and we have lots of engagement with government on this issue, but of course, you know, the main area of lobbying that we do is to try to actually seek a change of government so that we get a change of direction.
Thank you very much indeed. That's been moved and seconded. All those in favour? That's everybody. And just like a green bus, Gavin, you wait for a supplementary planning document and two come along at the same time. Item 9 is the Ironbridge Gorge Rural Heritage Site supplementary planning document. Richard Overton.
Thank you, Sean. We all know that the Ironbridge Gorge Heritage Site is an internationally recognised area of outstanding universal value and one of 7 designated conservation areas in the borough. UNESCO awarded the Gorge World Heritage Site status in 1986 in recognition of the area's record of innovation during the Industrial Revolution. The outstanding universal value of the area is captured in the many historical sites, landscapes, settings of the gorge and the social history of the area. This report has been cross-cabinet with Councillor Healy and Councillor Kalele. I got that wrong. Carrier. Yeah. The purpose of the World Heritage Site Supplementary Planning Document is to provide locally distinctive planning guidance to help protect the gorge and support sustainable development within the World Heritage Site. This policy will help address climate change within the gorge area by providing residents and businesses with, for example, guidance on how to improve the thermal and energy efficiency of their homes. The World Heritage Site boundary extends into Shropshire, therefore the supplementary planning document will be used by both local planning authorities to help determine planning applications in their respective areas. We have held extensive consultation and engagement in partnership with Shropshire Council with the local community earlier this year. This included 6 public engagement sessions in the World Heritage Site. This feedback from residents has helped shape the final document. The Council received feedback from the Ward Council local residents around additional support and guidance that could be provided when they are looking to submit plan applications, responding to residents and businesses' feedback, and to help facilitate this, the Council will be running regular workshops in the World Heritage Site, with specialist officers available to answer questions and provide initial pre-application feedback on development proposals. The purpose of this report is to present the supplementary plan document to Cabinet for adoption and for use in determining planning applications within the Ironbridge Gorge area. The SPD will help us protect the outstanding universal value of the gorge, but also make it easier for residents to understand how best to bring forward sustainable development within the World Heritage Site. I move the recommendations contained in the report.
Thank you very much. Is that seconded? Thank you. Any comments or questions from Cabinet members? Carolyn?
Yeah, I mean, the World Heritage Site, you know, it's a unique place in the world, isn't it? You know, that's why it is a World Heritage Site, and as residents and businesses And I'm a resident. I've checked that this is not a conflict of interest. I can speak. But residents of businesses, you know, we are custodians of the World Heritage Site as much as the local authorities that within which the World Heritage Site sits. But it is, you know, can be challenging sometimes to sort of live a 21st century life in a historic setting, to make the modifications to sort of modern living that we all want to do whilst preserving the heritage. It's possible, but it can feel complicated, and it certainly is a big part of my casework. So having this document, it is a very long document. There's an awful lot in it because of the complexities, and the officers have put so much work into it, so thank you to the team. But it just gives a lot more clarity, a lot more information, both for residents making modifications, but for new developments within the World Heritage Site as well. And I think that will give us, you know, a much greater consistency and protection of that outstanding universal value. And I really welcome the fact that, you know, we're also going to be, you know, also bolstering that by updating the residents' guide. So there's the easy read version of this effectively, and also having those drop-in sessions where people can actually just raise their queries face to face with the planning officer and get that verbal advice. And with my climate change hat on, again, that's always a slight challenge in terms of trying to have a very sustainable home that was built 200 years ago in a World Heritage Site. But again, the guidance sets out what's possible without harming that outstanding universal value. So really, really good piece of work. I really welcome it. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, and thanks for all the work that's gone into it. I know it's been a long time in the making. Are there any comments from any other member of the Cabinet? No? Group leaders, anything from yourselves? No? Okay. Okay, thank you very much. It's been moved and it's been seconded. All those in favour, thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Gavin. Right, we'll now move to item 10, which is the Ercall Magna Neighbourhood Development Plan, pages 287 to 384. Richard Overton.
Thank you, Leader. My last one. The Ercall Magna Neighbourhood Plan has been developed by the Parish Council through consultation with local residents, stakeholders and feedback from the council officers. As you're aware, neighbourhood plans reflect plan issues that are important to the parish and adds additional local detail to policies in the Telford Wrekin local plan. We've been working closely with the Parish Council and supporting them at all points of the process as part of our continued commitment to local decision making. The plan has now had its final round of public consultation and has been subject to an independent examination. The Parish Council, in consultation with council officers, have accepted all the modifications put forward by the examiner. As previously mentioned, this administration is committed to local decision making and local participation in the planning process. There are 7 made neighbourhood development plans in the borough, and subject to referendum, Ercall Magna will be the 8th parish the council will have assisted through this process. Over 50,000 borough residents live in parishes with plans in place and benefit from locally distinctive policies that help protect their area and shape development. This report recommends Cabinet approval to move to the referendum stage of the neighbourhood plan making process. I therefore move the recommendations in the report.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Any comments or questions from the Cabinet members? Any questions or comments from the group leaders? We'll send it to the people. Yeah. Okay. So all those in favour? That's everybody. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Right, we'll move on to item 11 then, which is the progress on the Council's Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Strategy and Action Plan, pages 385 and 402. Councillor Raj Mehta.
Thank you. Progress reports on the Council's EDI strategy. Last July, the Council launched its new 4-year Equality, Diversity and Inclusion strategy. Within this, the Council declared its commitment to opposing unlawful discrimination and promoting equality of opportunity. Its vision and a set of objectives to be met through the delivery of an accompanying cross-organisational action plan. It was agreed that the Council will report and publish progress against this on an annual basis, which this report is now doing 1 year on. It also details how we will continue to deliver on this agenda moving forward and includes the proposed new actions that were identified as part of our progress monitoring. As well as asking Cabinet to agree these new actions, we are also looking for approval to adopt Armed Forces personnel, which includes veterans and families, so they're given due regard in the same way as those all the protected characters. Some of our key updates. Significant work has been carried out to deliver a range of actions in the EDI action plan over the last year, demonstrating the positive steps being taken across the organisation. To give you a flavour of what's been happening, here are some key updates. Strategies EDI is being taken into consideration as part of the decision-making processes. Our employee-led groups continue to meet on a regular basis. It's been encouraging to see the results from the last employee survey. An EDI focus review of the recruitment and selection policy and all EDI training and development for staff and members has been taken in place. In addition to this, a tailored health and engagement event was delivered for members of the deaf community in May. Our safeguarding adults and children boards have had input from those with lived experiences. Throughout the year, a range of events across the borough have also been supported by the council. The multicultural development team have also delivered a number of free workshops. Many other examples are detailed in the full report, and whilst we have achieved a lot in the last 12 months, there's still a lot to deliver against a long-term action plan. To give you an idea of some of the key actions and next steps in the coming months. Following a successful funding bid, a new Armed Forces outreach worker, a new diversity calendar, an inclusive recruitment champion scheme. We'll also be building on our disability confident status to become a disability confident leader. And finally, there will be an EDI training workshop for members in November. Thank you. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Phyllis and her team for all the work they've put into this.
Thank you very much. Is that seconded? Thank you. Kelly?
I just wanted to say a huge well done to the team. I know how hard everyone works in that team. I've worked with you and you do a brilliant job. And a load of dedication, I think, to celebrate the diversity within the council and across the borough. Ensure people feel like they belong here and have access to services, really important. And as the report states, it cross-cuts across all of our services, all of our departments, and as is health, equality and inclusion is everybody's business. So it's really good to see it does cross-cut, and that we've got a really positive culture of inclusion within the council and across the borough, and we should, I think, be really proud of that and the progress that we've made. So I just wanted to say well done.
Thank you. Shirley?
Thank you. Yeah, it's a very good report. I think it's real clear evidence of our protect, care and invest agenda, and the fact we've worked with so many groups who have inputted into this strategy, I think, and helped, you know, with its development is really important. On a personal note, I'm delighted to see that we've included our care experience youngsters now in the strategy. We are the first local authority in the West Midlands that have adopted care experience as a protected characteristic now. So I think the fact that we were one of the leading lights in the area, it's great to see that it's already embedded within our strategy and we're moving forward with that, because it's one of the last things we did with the previous administration. And so we know that our care experience young people are going to be afforded that extra support and protection from ourselves. And I just know that we're going to continue to ensure that this is a strategy that will develop. It isn't, this is the document, this is where we are. We will continue to add into that to make sure that all our residents feel included, they're treated fairly and equitably, and actually they belong in the place they call home.
Thank you very much. Heidi?
Only a quick comment about this. I really welcome the support. This report, I think this is one of the sort of themes that is in the heart of just about everybody around this table. There's a couple of things in there that I really wanted to just mention, which was the work around the Armed Forces personnel, which I think is really, really important. I welcome the neurodiversity group that's been set up. I think that's really, really important as well. I just think we need to get the messaging out around some of these themes, and this is the very start of that work moving forward, so I welcome that. And just some of the work on the Windrush generation, I saw some of that. My husband's grandfather was one of the Windrush generation, and I know they did some fabulous work during the last month just to highlight that, so I just wanted to give that a mention, but it's a really good report, so thank you.
Thank you. Group leaders?
Welcome report.
Volumes, right. So I think one of the things I also want to commend the team is the work that we've done across with partners as well, and it would go amiss if I didn't highlight that Great Dorley Town Council has become the first town council in the country to get the gold MOD recognition, following the great footsteps of Telford Wrekin, of course, and I'm sure lots of other parish and town councils will be following suit. But that was as a result of the work that our teams have done around the strategy, working with partners as well as doing what we're doing. So we're doing what we're walking the walk, but we're also helping others walk the walk too. So that's really important. So thank you very much. It's been moved and it's been seconded. All those in favour? Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. We'll move then to item 12, which is the Customer Feedback Report 22-23, pages 403 to 504. Councillor Nathan England.
This report details the Council's customer feedback received between 1st of April 2022 and 31st of March 2023, and to provide assurance that the Council's response to complaints is effective, that services are learning from complaints and also wider customer feedback, and using it to continuously improve our services. To demonstrate effective complaint handling, the Council produces detailed annual reports regarding children's and adult statutory complaints and corporate feedback and complaints. I am delighted that this year's report tells such a positive story. There has been a sustained increase in compliments, which has continued to increase year on year. The number of residents and customers who have taken the opportunity to give a compliment in this reporting period has increased significantly to 566, an improvement of 19% on the 475 the year before. There has in fact been a 95% increase in compliments received in the last 4 years. Overall, we received 656 complaints across the council in 2022-23, a 13% reduction from 759 in the previous year. Complaints regarding our children's services are at their lowest in 8 years. Complaint response times have also continued to improve, with the time taken to respond to a corporate complaint improving from an average of 12 days to 11. Response times for adult social care complaints reduced considerably from 33 days to 25 days. The report also details some of the proactive insight work we have undertaken in the last 12 months, with activities including the continuation of our mystery customer programme and expanding our customer satisfaction surveys. The report also details the outcomes of the Back to the Floor initiative and the initial results from the Institute Customer Service Benchmarking and Workforce surveys. This in particular shows that the customer satisfaction score for the council is much higher than other comparative local authorities. It is also really pleasing to see that satisfaction from our customers calling our contact centre is at 91%. This will be in large part because of the high performance of the team, with over 99% of calls being answered in less than 10 minutes. Alongside the feedback reports, we have also taken the opportunity to introduce a new policy and procedure for the handling of complaints regarding child sexual exploitation, as was recommended by the independent inquiry. The council has been working with individuals with lived experience, and they have provided feedback and helped shape this new policy. Most importantly, the policy also provides information around how complainants can access support and support services alongside our investigation into their complaint. There is significantly more detail on all the above in the submitted reports.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Thank you very much. Any comments or questions, Kelly?
I think it's fantastic. I think it's really important to get that feedback, and there's compliments and complaints. As I've said before, they are a conversation which is vital. I think we shouldn't shy away from feedback. I think it's really important. That's how we grow and develop as an organisation, how we know to affect change, and we hear about how the work we're doing is landing in the community and how we can do things better or more effectively. So yeah, really positive, and I think getting feedback's really helpful. So great.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Shirley?
Just a quick one really. I think it's really important that we consider, these complaints. I think it's really important we get them in. I'm delighted to see the inclusion of the anonymous complaints, because I think we do need to have that process. There are residents out there who may not want to give their name away, but I think it's also a good validation for ourselves. We know that if any complaint is going to come our way, There's nothing to stop a resident doing it. There's no barriers, and we will get those. But I think, looking at a personal view, the children's statutory complaints we received, it's the lowest number that we have received of complaints in the last 8 years, which is actually an amazing thing in itself. I think it's worth noting, though, whilst we strive to have minimal complaint responses, I think the response time of 16 days in the area we're talking about is actually, it shouldn't be considered very long. These cases are very, very complex. They need full investigation and consideration because of their complexities. So I actually think the team should be actually, I'd like to thank them for the work they do. I mean, I know I see a lot of these things coming through to myself from parents, the casework that comes in, and they are incredibly complex. There is no way that can have a very, very short turnaround, and I think the 16 days actually justifies and shows the work that goes on before we respond back to residents. So I think it's vital that we recognise the work of the staff dealing with that. But I think one of the things that really stood out for me was the 95% increase in compliments from our residents, and I think that speaks testament to the work that our officers are doing on our behalf daily. So,
thank you very much. Group leaders?
Yes, I think this report came to an audit committee, and I think it did. Memory's going, sorry. But at the time then I did say that it's wonderful the direction of travel in terms of complaints that both adult and children's social services, the most vulnerable people that we look after, that those complaints are going down. It is also wonderful that the compliments are going up. And Lee has fully told me that it's not just members of his family that are putting all the compliments in. But no, seriously, it is good, the direction of travel. And the one thing I want to pick out is a thank you to the team for processing all the inquiries that we get, complaints, compliments that we get coming through. But also a huge thank you to the public. We've been having training sessions as members that we're the eyes and we should be out there looking, but we also want to encourage the public. We do welcome them to say the things that we miss and you can see, let us know if we can help. If we can put it right, we can. If we can't, then hopefully we'll let you know. Unfortunately, we can't do it at the time being. Because without them reporting issues, and also we welcome them to ask questions so that they can find our services and dig in and know what's going on. And I think the local authorities have got an excellent track record in doing that, in being open, accessible to the public, whether it's to complain or ask or everything else. And the other thing I always ask for, which you do, is that we do remain open to people with a phone number. I know it can get busy, and I know people may have to be patient to get answers, because I know your staff are limited with the time. But one of the worst phrases in the world that's come out in the last few years is web chat. Have you ever tried to get hold of someone on web chat and you think, well, if they're chatting to me with the fingers, why can't they pick the phone up and have a proper dialogue? So I do really welcome all the methods that we use to engage with the public, and I want to thank you for that report.
Give it, Andrew?
No.
I just want to say this is a huge piece of work, and effectively it's the way in which we have to interact with our citizens, and therefore it's really important. And I think that one of the things that we have been criticised for by our peers is the fact that we've got such multi-access ways in, which is something that we've made a very deliberate decision to protect. So you can write a letter, or you can ring us, or you can email us, or you can deliver something on an app, or report via an app, and all those ways into our organisation are captured, and they are as important as one another. And I think one of the things, just picking up your point, Bill, is we've extended our contact centre opening times, and having a call answered within 10 minutes I think compares very well to government departments. Having been on the phone to HMRC for an hour and a half the other week on behalf of a constituent, I think it compares really, really well. And then I think also the member inquiry system is pretty phenomenal. I see, in fact I've got it in front of me right now, member by member, who uses the member inquiry system, how much casework is being generated by that. And I think that, again, if you compare to other councils, is something that's really important, so that we can track and promise our elected members a timescale for a outcome, and we can track that through and learn from that. And then just finally, I think, as Kelly quite rightly says, a compliment or a complaint, they're all conversations, and I think we need to make sure we're not complacent or defensive, but we're ambitious and we're aspirational in terms of making sure we can see continuous improvement. I know from some people they think this is too good to be true, but actually it's all backed up by facts and evidence, so well done to our team. It's been proposed and it's been seconded. All those in favour? That's it, everybody. We call the meeting to an end. Thank you.